This podcast contains swear words.
Hello and welcome to Talking Shit with Tara Cheyenne, podcast about making shit up, also known as art making, creativity, not giving up even though being creative and being an art maker isn't always, is it ever easy? And living well in the process. I, as a performing artist, am coming from that purview. However, the themes, issues, ideas that we talk about here with our fabulous guests are applicable to all of us. Even if you don't consider yourself an artist, you are, probably. Life is a creative act. And who am I, you might ask? Although you're probably deducing that I am Tara Cheyenne because this is Talking Shit with Tara Cheyenne. I'm Tara Cheyenne Friedenberg, and I am a choreographer, actor, dancer, writer, performing artist, and educator living on the stolen ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations on the west coast of Turtle Island. So, hey, thanks for being here. Just a reminder, as I do every time, to please share this podcast, to rate it, review it, 5 stars, through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. You can, push the buttons. Clearly, I don't know exactly what I'm talking about, but you probably do because you probably know more about the buttons than I do. It helps folks find the podcast. When you look for creative, art, dance podcasts, will be further up at the top, and then people can find us. And if you have the desire, wherewithal, ability to donate, it makes a huge difference. We are a very small, not-for-profit, and we do pay our guests. You can donate at taracheyenne.com, upper right-hand corner. Just click on that donate, or we'll put the link in the show notes. Today, I have a very special guest, a friend, Alison Denham. We go way back. I am a massive fan, and I am so lucky to have worked with Allie. Alison was in Highgate, a piece that premiered in 2013. Oh, seems like a minute ago. She's an incredible performer, an incredible teacher, an incredible human being. She has danced for many people, myself included. In addition, she was with Dance Makers under the artistic direction of Serge Benathan. She's performed for Justine Chambers, another good friend, David McIntosh, Lola McLaughlin, Wen Wei Wang, Alvin Tolentino, Peter Chin, David Earle, Judith Marcuse, Judith Gary, the list goes on. And now she doesn't really perform anymore. She is an incredible Pilates teacher, intuitive body expert. I mean, we'll get into it in the interview. She's a really special person, and I'm so lucky to have had a little bit of time, because she's super busy, to sit down and chat. So I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. Allie Denham, I was trying to remember when I met you, and I think you were like a tiny baby.
Yeah, I was a baby dancer. Was it?
You were a baby dancer.
Before I went to Toronto, or was it after?
What year did you go to Toronto?
I was in Dance Makers from 20... No, I don't even know now. 20-something years ago.
Yeah, I think I did. I think I remember you here.
Yeah, because I remember you. Because you were a performer, and I thought you were amazing, and I was a little student. I don't know if we'd met yet.
Yeah, but I think you were on my radar.
Oh.
Yeah. So before you went to Toronto. So for those of you who don't know who I'm talking to, where have you been? Alison Denham is a fantastic dancer, actor, Pilates guru, expert, how you say in a French accent. Yeah, like movement functionality. I'll let you explain what you are. What's your jam these days?
Yeah, what is my jam these days? Well, I don't perform anymore, really. That's not something I've completely given up on, but it's not something I focus on. I teach movement daily. That's what I do. So my main modality is Pilates, classical Pilates. But I've shifted even from fully teaching Pilates to integrating an even more nervous system regulation, somatic work. And so I could explain that a little bit.
Oh my God, yes.
Did I go into that a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So my when I had Zoya, my daughter, 10 years ago, I transitioned a little more into Pilates and then still performed a bit. But the last show I did was probably 2 years ago with David McIntosh and Battery Opera. And I started to teach more humans Pilates and more private sessions. So less sort of group, situations. And what I was finding inside of teaching one-on-one with people was that more and more coming up in people's systems was emotionally based reactions to their physicality. Mm-hmm. So that's where I started to get interested in myself needing to be more trauma informed.
Okay.
So this was probably, I remember I'd had a Canada Council grant to go to Berlin to study with Shannon Cooney, who I will say her name, she's rad. And she does a really beautiful modality that she created called dynamic expansion. So I went to study with her for a couple weeks. And while I was there, I was kind of having this, something needs to come into my life. I need some sort of training or mentor or something, but I really didn't know where to look.
Yeah.
And I found it while I was there. I found it I was a couple of years before I'd done an independent film here in Vancouver called Bella Ciao with a local director and writer. And I played a woman living on the streets, an addict.
Right.
And in that research for that film, I read Gabor Mate's book, In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts.
Yeah.
And that sort of turned me on to his work. And then I read When the Body Says No. And I started to just really like his information that he's putting out in the world. And I got really interested in watching him on YouTube just talk. I'd like roll around on the ground and do movement and listen to his thoughts. Mm-hmm. And when I was in Berlin, I found a YouTube talk. And then at the end of it, he spoke about this online training that he'd started called Compassionate Inquiry. Mm. So literally the next day, I told Shannon about it. I went home and I applied for a subsidized, ability to do it, and I got it. So I started this year-long training to become informed in his method of sort of trauma healing, essentially.
Right.
And that was 2019 heading into 2020. So I was in the middle of that program when lockdown happened for the pandemic.
Right. Oh, God.
Yeah. So it was kind of a really interesting time of my life. But that sort of was where I began adding this other level of, I actually look at it as movement still.
Yeah.
But more of talking with people or being with people and having their emotional life show up a little bit more. And it was happening already, but I was gaining tools through this learning to be able to support people differently. And I really love it. I really love having that extra tool in my pocket as a physical movement teacher.
Right.
So it's really changed my practice. And it also changed it so that once the pandemic stuff, changed and we could go back to being in studios and all of that, I started working in Pilates studios again, but I also started bringing people into my home so that I could have more intimacy with people where there wasn't other people in the room.
Yeah.
And so now I have my own practice.
Yeah.
I still work at a Pilates studio in North Vancouver, but I have my own studio practice that I do, where I do work with some people specifically at this point on more somatic nervous system work.
Right.
And then some people specifically with Pilates. So it's actually really fun. My spectrum's really big at this point. And for me, that's really fed me on a level of leaving dancing where I was gigging all the time, new groups of people, new energy. I actually really miss that change that occurred. Mm-hmm. Life's been a little more
samey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Samey. So this has actually helped it become a little less samey, and now my days are a little bit different, and my sessions are always different depending on who I'm working with. And some people they come in and it's like, what do you want to do today? And that day they might need to talk.
Yeah.
That day they might need to feel, and we just explore the nervous system. Or that day they might need to kick their ass with their abs. And that's fine. So I have this really fun, it's a fun experience of being, I guess, an educator. I don't even know what I call it anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like I'm educating, but I know there's times where some, psychoeducation comes in or an anatomical education comes in. But what I would call, I don't know what to call myself or what I do is more like embodiment sessions with people, and that manifests differently with each individual.
Right.
Yeah.
And probably, like you say, each time.
And each time, absolutely.
The moment is always unique.
Yeah.
Oh, I have so many questions.
Yeah, I love questions.
Okay. So I think, I've definitely felt this, like folks I know, whether they're younger or older dancers, the transition away from performing all the time and gigging all the time can be really hard. This identity thing, being in the expressive body all the time. no matter where you go, whether you stop performing and do something else or whatever, you're bringing it all with you. It's all still there. Like even what you're talking about, it's like, well, that's all movement. It's all expression of somebody coming in and you using all your decades of body knowledge and now all this compassionate inquiry knowledge to, I don't know, like meet them where they are. It's interesting because I feel like sometimes you just need to do squats.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes you need somebody to listen to you complain about your mother.
That's right.
and sometimes you come out and it's actually, you feel the same way at the end. It's like, yeah, that was good. Got some good. God.
Yeah, got something out. Like whether it was through my physicality or it was through my voice or whether it was through, whatever.
Yeah.
Something shifted. Something needed to shift. Yeah. I forgot to mention one thing that I think I will mention because it's a bit more present, which is that, so I did the compassionate inquiry training in 2019, kind of through to 2022 because I redid it. I did it twice actually because the pandemic created a state of not being able to focus as well as I'd like to, just because we were all surviving and all the things, it was just a crazy time. But then through that work, I actually found that there was something about it. It's fantastic. Highly recommend it and love it. And the practitioners are amazing. But there was a part of it that I really loved, which was taking people into their body when they were talking about whatever they were going through. And that taking the people into their body to become more connected to their somatic self, that really interested me. And I think that's from my life as a movement person already. Yeah. And I kind of sought out somatic experiencing, which is a whole other modality.
Right.
And that's what I'm in training for right now. So I'm in my second year of a 3-year training. I'm right in the middle to work as a somatic experiencing practitioner. So that's a whole different training. And that's created by Peter Levine, who's also an incredible trauma expert. Wrote a beautiful book called Waking the Tiger that I think everyone should read.
Oh, I've heard of that book.
It's exceptional. Yeah. So that sort of showed up because I realized I'm learning all these kind of interesting cognitive skills and stuff, but I'm also reading body language and there's something else going on here. And that's where the somatic experiencing has kind of been helping flesh it out even more for me. Yeah. That the nervous system and how the nervous system speaks and how the nervous system can be accessed and honored and listened to can really also be fascinating. So now I do a little more of that, which is less talk, more listen to the body and to the nervous system's reactions. Wow. Very cool, very cool.
What does that look like? Can you give me an
example? Yeah, so it can look like lots of things, but like an example would be so the other thing about both these things that I've studied is there are approaches that can be added on to what you already do. So for me, they both generally come up in an emergent situation, meaning like someone comes in to do Pilates, usually. That's how I mostly get my clients. And then something starts to come up and then there's some emotions and then we have to pivot into something else. Or I say, would you like to pivot into, something's going on. Do you want to look into that? Yeah. And sometimes I say, no, I want to just do squats and abs, and that's fine. But other days they're like, it's like ruling me right now. So then we would pivot into, an example of how it could look. Let's get you really comfortable in the space. So that means like you can be anywhere in the room. You can tell me to be comfortable to you in the space. I'll be wherever you want. And then we orient to the space, make sure that we have a good visual connection, maybe auditory connection, so that the person's trying to find deep presence to then be able to really feel their body and sense what's going on. And then maybe we go into like, let's just start thinking about the issue. And often right away when someone just thinks about the issue or something that's going on, they'll notice a physical reaction of heat in the face, or if they're angry, or it could be anything. I don't want to say what it is because you never know. It can be fascinating.
You never know.
You never know.
True, right?
Yeah. And then the guiding through that kind of depends on the person and what comes up, but it's very creative. It feels like art making because it's not like, oh, we're going to follow this script and do this thing. It's like, we're going to see what happens. So sometimes it turns into bringing the nervous system down from a heightened place. Sometimes it's bringing it up because someone has dropped so low, so disconnected, so lack of energy. Yeah. Sometimes it's like maybe we need some mobilization.
That's so interesting. Now I think about it and you say it's like, oh yeah, I know people like that. I know I've probably done that. But you don't think of that like low ebb as actually a way of disassociating, as you said, from something that could be really triggering in another time or situation.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to get a little bit MFA, everybody. Just like, sorry. Thank you, listeners, for being with me as I do my master's degree. But I'm writing about the field of emerging affect. So affect being feeling as a place where movement impulse and comedic impulse arrive from. And so it sounds so similar, right? Like it's about the unknown. And we're so, I feel like culturally, colonial settler culture-y. Yeah, I know I'm in grad school. I should know words. This whole idea that we should know that there is a predetermined way we're supposed to be or supposed to feel, and all those things are actually like counter-creative. And even when I think about like I'm supposed to know something or do it the right way, I can feel my nervous system like kind of give me a little kickback on that. It's really interesting.
The should be a certain way.
Yeah. That's a nasty one.
Right?
I know.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. Hey, I'm curious about, because I have my own baggage about Pilates, only because but I know that it is a huge practice. There's many facets. There's many different ways. There are different modalities. The way I learned it in the olden days was like, you had to be in a unitard. It was on the big bed things. It was always in front of a mirror. Oh, wow. Which I'm sorry. There is a point, especially after one has a child, where it's like, I don't want to look at why would I do that? So I'm interested to hear how Pilates is interwoven in all of this, because to me, and just also for the listener, like I think some of us think of it as it's really technical, get strong in a very certain way. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because my perception of Pilates and my teaching of it has changed so much.
Yeah.
Obviously, through what I've been learning, just on a level even of like my own nervous system as a teacher, and also understanding the nervous system more through the education I've been getting, and that every human's nervous system and how they walk into the room and how it goes down. Whew, it's intense sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's especially intense if people feel like they're in this loaded position already of kind of what you're talking about. So the way I work with it now, the way I see Pilates is that it's so not so much about what it looks like and the form of it. It's about how it feels. My journey with it, or my goal as a teacher maybe, is to try to get people to have more somatic skill so that they're teaching themselves on some level. They're listening to their body. Sure, there's these exercises. They're fantastic, actually, but they can look different on your body than they do on my body, than they do on everyone else's body.
Yeah.
If we are given the openness to explore our own body and find the sensation of support and strength, as opposed to just everything's linear, everything needs to be straight lines, everything has to be exact same rep, same amount. Like there is that rigidity inside of some thoughts of Pilates for sure.
Yeah.
I still really hold to like a pathway of the system that I think really works. And I also really believe in repetition and practice.
Yeah.
I do. And that's how we get more progress in ourselves, is if we practice the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
But it's like, are you practicing the same thing over and over again? Like if we're trying to do an exercise in a Pilates exercise is aimed towards integrating your legs into your pelvis to feel some abdominal connection, to feel strength. When we do that, do you only feel back pain? Right. Then we're not doing it properly. And we need to together figure out what you need to do to change that. So the way I'm teaching people now is very different. It's like, that's why I prefer one-on-one.
Yeah.
Because that's way more exploratory. If you have even 3 to 4 people in a group, you can't give every human the time, your attention, I guess.
Yeah.
You can give really good kind of general wash cueing, I call it.
Yeah.
And inside of that is questions like, can you feel this? Or how does it feel when you do that? Or I try to be more questioning as opposed to telling people what to do. And that's changed a lot in my teaching.
Oh, yes.
Big time. Like I'm not, and even I've been teaching at SFU these students this fundamental movement class, and I've tried to center it around helping them find somatic skills by softening, by releasing, to then go into strengthening with those somatic skills on board. Because they're dancers, most of them, so they're going to come in and be like, you can tell me what to do. That's what I'm used to.
Yeah, exactly.
And they can make shapes and they look pretty, but I don't think they're feeling what they could be feeling to help them be more integrated in their being right now and in their longevity in their dance career, but not even just dancing, just in life.
Yeah,
like
just in
most
their bodies.
People are not really walking around in their bodies, like on a somatic level, on a sensation level.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people come into my studio. I'm like, how are you? And they're like, I'm not sure. We'll find out. Like, let's start moving and I'll figure out how I am because I'm not sure yet because my day has just been technology and demands of family and work. And right. And so it's interesting. And I really enjoy working inside of something where it's like, let's find some peace inside of you in this hour or whatever. And that peace can look like big physical movements, but how like honed in are you to yourself in this moment?
Right. It really speaks to that. I feel like it's a cultural, I don't know, this mutation that's happened, and whether it's because of trauma or pain or technology, emotions, like removing physical perception, you know, or proprioception, interoception is.
Yeah.
It's frightening, actually, to think people aren't feeling their bodies because there's so much knowledge in the body. The body's telling you, well, that when the body says no, thank you.
But if feeling your body is scary and painful, no wonder. And there's so many reasons to distract from the feeling. And then 100%. If not enough safe spaces to go into, to be held, not held like to be held to be able to go through your process so that you can hold yourself eventually. Yeah. Because that's the other thing. I think there's this other part of what's happening in our world a little bit that I feel like I see is come here and we'll help you feel better. And then you'll go away. But then you have to come back and we'll help you feel better.
Yeah, there's no like empowerment.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one is we want sort of relief all the time, but building a capacity to hold all our pain.
Yeah.
And then know that it will shift and change. Like that's a big, I think that's what draws me so much to physical practices, but also other stuff, the nervous system and sometimes being able to hold space for people to be able to talk about when their emotions show up that it's okay. Yeah. Because they need to integrate.
They're not separate.
No, they're not. I mean, they can't be.
No.
The body-mind thing cracks me up. I'm like, your mind's in your body.
I know. Me too.
You can separate it. Like,
there's no way. There's no way.
There was a movie in the 80s, I think, with it was like the brain. It was like
The Man with Two Brains.
It was like Steve Martin with the brain in the jar. Yeah. Yes, I think about that all the time.
It's a ludicrous movie.
It's so stupid,
it's a ludicrous movie,
but I do think about it. I'm like,
that's so funny. I actually used a slide from that movie to talk about that idea last year in one of my seminar classes, because that's how it's talked about. I'm like reading stuff about the intellect, you know, and then the body is so an afterthought or a like, oh yes, embodied practice, but you can't do anything without your body. You're going to bring it with you.
Yeah. It's coming with you no matter what.
Even if you would prefer not.
Yeah.
You're a parent.
I am.
Zoya's 10.
10, yeah.
How did that happen? Oh, man. In 2015 or 2014, when you had Zoya, was when we went on tour with Highgate. So Ali was in the original cast of Highgate, which I'm still very proud of that piece. It was like such a good show. Such a good show. Go to my website. You can see a little clip.
Yeah.
And so I think about the kids. And I think about my kid who was 13 and they're like, in high school, and just like how can we, whether it's teaching students or our kids, like how can we help them integrate? That's a big question. Sorry about that.
No, it's not. I'm shaking my head a little bit because I'm struggling with that on a parenting level.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, I always used to think, I'm going to my kid's going to meditate, teach my kid how to stretch and do Pilates. She has no interest. Like she doesn't want to do anything I say, really. So then I've had this other part of like, well, if I just model what I do, you know, and that's at this point, that's it. I'm like, I'm on the floor rolling around most of the time.
Yeah.
When we're home hanging out and she's playing, and I'm just like on the floor exploring my body, because that's kind of what I do just all the time.
Yeah.
To stay out of pain, to stay out of anxiety, to stay out of like all the things that come up of living in this time, and you know, and I don't know. I find it daunting, actually.
Yeah.
That question, because I don't know.
I know. Hey.
It was interesting. She did tell me the other day that someone at her school came in, and she's like, "This woman came in. You would have loved it, Mom. She was talking about the nervous system." And then so there's some programs happening, and this is great. I mean, she's in a public school, so I was like, "Oh, right on. I do love that. Tell me more about it."
Yeah.
And her main thing she said was, "Well, I really liked her, except she kept going, wait. I just want to feel my feelings for a sec." And so I was like, I didn't like that part. I didn't need to watch her feel her feelings. But, you know, I'm glad that there's someone coming into her grade 5 class and doing, maybe it was just a day or two on nervous system, teaching them about the nervous system.
Yeah.
That's right. And that she knew that her mom would care about that. And so, you know, there's something happening there. But I don't know. I think I have a lot of fear for the future of our young people.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And I totally think they don't do what we say, they do what we do. Just for anybody who's thinking about having children or has any, because I thought I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. And then you realize like, oh no, they're not doing what I say. Oh shit. Mm-hmm. They're doing what I do. Mm-hmm. However, right now, Jasper has started we go to a gym, and because lifting weights is like, the best thing in the world. Sorry, everybody who's heard me go on about weightlifting. I'm like, why didn't I start this 25 years ago? This is the best thing in the world. Awesome. But Jasper started coming, which I'm quite impressed because I thought like they were just going to poo-poo it, the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But I think part of it is they like being around like adults and being included as like they're the only young person. Huh. In this, like, it's mostly like middle-aged people, a lot of middle-aged femme creatures in there, like combating the perimenopause. Who is this Peri? I guess I kind of feel like the avenue, as a parent, it's like as much body stuff, as much movement, as much as I can encourage them to do is like kind of the only thing I can influence, you know? Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. What's your relationship with technology?
Oh, that's another big question. My relationship with technology is like, I think I use it as little as I actually need to.
Do you?
Yeah. I don't really want to be using technology, but I have to, obviously. So I do love it for the reasons that it helps me in my life, but I'm not someone that's honestly, I'm kind of going to a more desire for less action. Mm-hmm. I would love to live somewhere rural eventually. Like as I've been learning more about nervous system.
Oh yes.
And my own, I'm learning more and more how much I would love to not be overly stimulated as much as the city does, as much as social media does. Yeah. So I don't know yet, actually, what my relationship to technology is. I think it's a bit of we have a relationship.
Yeah, but it's not really
my favorite.
Going great.
No, it's not going badly.
It's not the worst.
But it's not growing. Let's put it that way. We're not becoming closer.
It's not like you want to have them over for dinner.
No.
It's like, no.
Like we just enough.
Yeah. Like if we accidentally run into each other, it's okay.
Exactly.
I like it. It reminds me of my fantastic friend Slato, Molly Wickham, who's, just if you have not seen the documentary Yinta, please see it. It is on CBC and it's also on Netflix. So Molly is Wet'suwet'en and up north near so-called Smithers. And she always tells me about people who come. So she has a cabin on the territory, beautiful log cabin. And people come and they're always like, oh, no, I don't, I don't nap, And she's like, just wait. 5, 6, 7, 8, they're out. Mm-hmm. And she just said it happens to everybody. They unplug, they get there, they pass out. Mm-hmm. And that just reminded me of that feeling of, so what is it saying about our bodies if when we get away from the stimulus, it's like the system shuts down.
Oh, completely.
Right?
I grew up on the Sunshine Coast, and whenever I get on the ferry to go home, I'm yawning and I'm ready for bed.
Wow.
And I claim it. I'm like, oh, here it comes. As soon as we drive on and park the car and go upstairs, I'm like, I'm ready. And I get to my parents' house, sleep like a baby for a few days. I love it. And I can just feel it. I can feel all the buzz of the light pollution, of the sound, of the energy. Yeah. And it's not even that rural there.
Yeah, right?
But I think because I was born there and I grew up there, and it is a ferry ride away, and I'm on the ocean, and it's quiet in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nature.
Yeah.
I'd say I'm more interested in my relationship with nature. I delve into the river in North Van as often as possible.
Oh, tell me about that.
Yeah, just Lynn Creek is my favorite.
Do you do it like any time of year?
I try to.
Yeah? Like the cold plunge?
I went yesterday. It was fantastic. It was very cold. Yeah. But I run. I like to run through the forest. Okay. And then go into the river.
So then you get quite hot and then get into the river.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it does also feel, sometimes I just don't run if it's pouring rain or something. Yeah. But there's just something about, whether I get in the water or not, there's just something about I love living here for that easy access to that.
Yes.
Because I'm lucky to have a car, so I can get there quickly and I can be immersed in those trees and in the sound of that river, and then maybe go into it. And it helps to clear a lot. Yeah. In my system, in my head, in my thoughts, in my physicality. I can feel the trees, the smell, the everything. Yeah. I can feel that feeds me. Yeah. So much. And I'm so interested in that.
Right? I mean,
so interested in that.
It's medicine. It's also, it's natural habitat.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, this is a dumb analogy, but anyway, you're a goldfish and you're swimming in some sort of like weird solution that it's like, it's enough that it's not going to kill you, but it's a weird solution. And then somebody picks you up and they put you in a real pond. And it's like, what? Yeah. It's pretty profound, hey? I was listening to a podcast, funnily enough, but just talking about like, how can we access nature when we live in a city? Like, what are all the ways? You just like, that's a great example of if you can get somewhere where there's a river or a stream or just any trees, like just taking that time. Yeah. Not with your fucking phone.
Yeah. You don't need your phone. I live near Trout Lake. Walk around that sucker a lot.
Right?
Yeah. And you don't need your phone. You'll be fine. You'll get your messages when you get back.
I know. Hey, I have like no judgment because it's hard. It's so hard. We're cyborgs. But the feeling of when you are not accessible, it's so good. Yeah. It's so good. At first, it's really...
Well, there can be panic, right? Yeah. So that's where like the nervous system shows up. And some people, that is panic. Like,
it is.
Fear there of, I'm not accessible. Where's my phone? Where I need to be able to be accessed all the time. And other people, it's like a sweet relief.
Yeah.
Sweet, sweet, sweet.
Maybe there's like that going through the threshold of the panic to the other side. And it's like, oh, wait, nothing horrible happened.
No, not very often.
No, I mean, horrible things will happen.
They will, exactly. Whether you have it or not.
Having your phone is not going to stop horrible things from happening.
No, it's not.
So you haven't performed in a couple of years.
No.
Do you miss it?
I don't. It's interesting. I don't miss performing. I miss being in creation processes with people. Yeah. I miss the camaraderie of the groups. I miss that.
Yeah, hey.
And then I do miss I think if I was to perform, I'd be like, oh yeah, I miss that.
Oh yeah.
But in my day-to-day, I wake up in the morning, I don't miss it. It's not something that I'm like, sad about. I can think back and have wonderful nostalgia for the performing that I've done. Yeah. And I don't know if I need to ever perform again. Like, that's actually very peaceful inside of me. I'm just like, I don't necessarily need to. It's fine. But I do sometimes miss those moments when you're, especially in a group, where there's like the big listen of what everyone else is doing and what you're doing. And that's very special. Yeah. And I don't find that anywhere else. Never found that anywhere else. Right. Never found it on sports teams. It wasn't the same.
It's not the same.
I don't find it in, other things that I do. I really only found it in creation, dance creation, performance creation with people.
You use the phrase, the big listen.
Yeah.
That's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
That in your book. Write your book.
Yeah. Well, that comes, like, I remember I was actually speaking to the students the other day that I'm teaching, and it's something that used to come up when I was 20. I was in Dance Makers, and we were a full-time group of people, company. We didn't work full-time in a year, but when we worked, we were always the same dancers. And so we got to take class together every day. Then we rehearsed together, and then we performed together. So there was just so much getting to know each other.
Yes.
On a body language more way.
Yeah.
And that training together, rehearsing together, performing together. I remember us speaking about this is the big listen, like the way we can feel each other. And we had a really, at that time, the group had such an incredible way of moving together through space, and people would notice that when they would watch us dance. Like our unison was really incredible, and it wasn't like a 5, 6, 7, 8 kind of unison.
No,
it was the big listen kind of unison.
Yeah,
and we would practice it with voice classes. Like we did other types of training to create more of that cohesion as a company. And I was so blessed that I got to experience that quite young.
Yeah.
So when I was in that company, I was the only 20-year-old. Everyone else was over 30. And I was little. So it was kind of like a university education or something at the time, because I was so small.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know, I'd come from being directed in a different way through dancing, through school.
Yeah.
And then it's something that's come up in rehearsals with Justine.
Yeah.
Like she said that. Justine Chambers, is that big listen has come up with her. To me, that's such a special feeling.
Yeah.
And I can like instantly see images and remember moments on stage where I can just I can feel what everyone's doing behind me. I can feel it because I know I've seen it a million times, but I can also feel it. And like the school of fish or a murmuration of birds. It's that kind of a sensation.
Yeah, right? Like that feeling of you're not singular. It's a multiplicity, which is the truth.
Yeah.
Right? We are literally all parts of an organism.
Yeah.
And that surrendering into that is blissful.
It is so special. And I think, even as you're saying that, it's making me go, yes, because we don't get it in a lot of other places. We get where there's so much individuation, and then I think we forget. And if we've never had that kind of experience.
Right.
But when you've had it.
I know.
It's so, I hate to sound hippie, but it's almost spiritual, that sensation of knowing, I'm breathing with these people. We're there, and everyone in this moment with me is with me, and we're all together. I don't know. It's just so beautiful. So I miss that.
Yeah,
I miss that.
I know.
It doesn't even matter what the piece is. I just missed that.
That part.
Yeah.
Which I think is we're pack animals, but our society is not organized like that. We're supposed to be all lone wolves and you figure it out and be self-sufficient. Fuck self-sufficient. I don't know.
Well, and people are so lonely.
We're so lonely.
And there's so many people around us, but we're so lonely.
Yeah. It's so true.
And I find that very sad.
It is, isn't it? I know. I think about I was trying to get Marc to join a choir because that feeling too is singing in a group. It's your voice is part of this
awesome
cacophony or cacophony, as I like to call it. It's like a sound bath. It's and you're in it, and it is bliss. I think it changes the vibration. Well, it's the vagus nerve.
Yeah, it does. All the humming, all the singing.
Yeah,
I think. Did he join a choir?
No, he hasn't yet.
Well,
he's editing this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'm going to recommend it, Marc, because I did join a choir last year. No, this year in January. Yeah, because I was going through some stuff and I was like, I need to be with people in that way. I was searching for that. And I'm realizing now, I kind of found it there. I just looked one up, found one in East Van. It was fantastic, called the Rain Coast Choir, I think. I can't remember, but it was fucking great. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but I just loved.
Yeah, the podcast is called Talking Shit.
Okay, good. I just loved the rehearsals. I didn't really care for when we started to make it a show. That's actually when the performer in me was like, I don't want to perform this, because it got really serious all of a sudden.
Oh yeah, no.
Whereas I was like, we're having so much fun.
I just like the practice.
Yeah. And the vocal, getting all the preparatory work and then the sectional work. It was beautiful. I loved that. I recommend it.
That's so good. Hey?
Yeah.
That reminds me of in high school, I was on the swim team and I went to all the practices because I liked being in the pool with other people and I liked the challenge and I liked the camaraderie. Yeah. And then it would become time for the competition and I would be like, no. So they finally were like, well, you're not on the team anymore. Okay, I get it.
You were such a good team player, but you don't fit into that part. Sorry.
I wouldn't compete. I wouldn't compete. I was pretty fast though, but
I bet.
Oh, man. Communal activities as an antidote, nature as an antidote. Eh?
Yeah.
Are there things that you recommend people do or that come up a lot as ways of soothing the nervous system or how to kind of manage in this super difficult time, difficult lives, and, there's pain and trauma everywhere all the time?
The biggest thing I notice with most people, including myself, but mine's getting better, is the self-talk. There's so much negative view of self.
Yeah.
So the literal lack of compassion for self.
Yeah.
People give other people so much more compassion than they give themselves.
Right.
But how each individual should go about developing more compassion for self, that's so tricky. Because for some people, that means developing a meditation practice.
Yeah.
For some, I don't know, training for a marathon.
Right.
So those are two very different things, right? Like one is about sort of slowing down. One is about ramping up.
Right.
So it kind of, earlier, before we even started this, you said it, getting older, it's like I learned that I don't know anything. Like that kind of, this is one of those questions where I'm like, every question I think of answering anyone ever is always I don't know, maybe try this, try that, because I don't know. And I've tried so many things in myself and I've figured out what's now working for me.
Yeah. But
I don't know if that would work for everyone.
It's the one size fits one.
Yeah. And I just can't get on board with that. I'm just like, no. Like I found, so this is an offer. I found a lot of support by doing something called a book by a man named Michael Brown called The Presence Process.
Okay.
And it was offered when I was in the Compassionate Inquiry program. We didn't have to do it, but it was one of the recommended things if you want to do it.
Yeah.
It's all about becoming more present. And it has this literature part, and then it has this program of 10 weeks of meditation and readings and accountability to self by trying to get through the 10-week program.
Right.
Took me a couple of years to get to that point.
Right.
I would read the book and then I wouldn't do it. And then I would read it and I'd do it. And then I did it.
Yeah.
And I did it. And then a year later I did it again. And then I did it 3 times in a row.
Wow.
Back to back. And it helped me create a full-time meditation practice that I need that helps me. And when I don't have it, I notice. I don't freak out, but I notice if I didn't get to meditate in the morning or in the evening.
Yeah.
But part of it is also learning how to not be too regimented. So, right? But that did help me get through some hard stuff in my life. Yeah. And I knew I needed to develop a practice that regulated my nervous system in a specific way.
Right.
I've told some people about that. I'm like, I'm not going to ever do that. And I'm like fucking fair.
Yeah.
It's hard fucking work.
Yeah.
But what I loved about it was I had to do the work to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty big advocate of sometimes you need a lot of people to hold you. But if we can get to a place where we can then start to hold ourselves, we're going to have more day-to-day, not happiness necessarily, but we're going to feel like we're more succeeding into our day-to-day life if we can take care of ourselves better. Now, I know there's a million reasons why that's hard for lots of humans. So,
exactly.
So again, it's not like I'm just like, that's what everyone should do. But, depending on where we're at in our life, it's like, I don't know. There's lots of amazing information out there. There's also a lot of shitty information out there. Right? So you can Google how to regulate my nervous system. You might find some great information, but you also might find some
garbage.
Yeah.
I'm not a believer in don't Google it. Please don't Google it. Talk to Allie Denham or ask some people in your life about who or where or what. I just feel like you're just going to get to some good stuff much more efficiently than Googling everything, especially what's this thing on my arm? Don't Google
don't Google that.
Just go to your doctor.
Yeah.
It's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's probably eczema. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. I haven't seen what's on your arm. We talked about repetition.
Yeah.
It's funny, this came up in our family because Marc had been doing some reading about before the age of 7, you absorb things in a different way. Like the human animal absorbs things kind of almost through osmosis in a way, like learning languages and that kind of thing. Damn.
No.
And then after that, it's repetition. And that's kind of it. Jasper rolled their eyes profusely, of course, at us. But I think I'm hearing that a little bit too, is just repeat, rinse, repeat. And if it's a good thing, if it's working, or if it's feels productive, it's kind of, there's no shortcuts.
No.
right?
I find that really hard because there's so many things to be distracted by.
Right.
And you could be inside of practicing something and someone else offers you something else and you start doing that and you get pulled and swayed.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to practice and it won't feel good all the time, whatever the thing is. And you might have to get through some plateaus and humps to be able to then say, I tried that and it didn't work.
Exactly.
Because sometimes, you know, I've had body treatments that like things got worse for a bit and then it got better.
I know,
you know,
right?
As opposed to like those body treatments where you walk out and they're like, they fix me, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But that kind of thing comes back again or something like that. Like, I just don't know. Practice is interesting.
Yeah.
Just the word practice, how people use it.
Yeah.
How we all look at about it and feel about it. And I tell my students a lot, they'll come up to me with, my SFU students will come up to me with like, oh, I have this thing and how do I fix it? And I'll be like, why don't you just keep practicing da-da-da, or just keep practicing. Because it's your body. And I don't think there's a quick fix, but I think there's exploration and there's practice. Yeah.
I have not found quick fix for anything. There's no, I mean, what does our friend Kate Franklin say? You got to regress to progress. And she said that to me in the gym the other day. I was like, damn.
I don't want to hear that. But she's right.
She's so right. She's so right. And as soon as I was like, okay, just like take it easy, because I get a little bit macho in the gym. I do a lot of push-ups.
Yeah, awesome.
I really like push-ups. I like push-ups. I'm getting so successful with my push-ups in the gym. I didn't know this about myself. That I'm like, should I have been doing this as a career?
Right.
Should I? What do you do? Push-ups.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't think it's a career, but there's something. But it's like, I just feel like with body stuff, even like physiotherapy, you know, you'd go like, oh, you just have to do those exercises that your physiotherapist gave you.
And if you do practice them,
you do.
It will get better.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
Damn it if it doesn't. So all the times I went to physio and then was like, I didn't do the exercise. No wonder it didn't work.
And they're like, they didn't do anything for me.
It wasn't them, Tara.
It was me. Yeah.
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 Oh my goodness.
It's hard stuff to contend with.
Yeah. It's that being human thing.
Yeah.
It's all that.
We're so flawed. But
we're so flawed.
But beautiful at the same time.
It's also wonderful, right?
Yeah.
What is something that you just find delightful about working with all these people, like really close and it's intimate and illuminating, and just like reading the body and teaching people about reading their bodies? Like what's something that stands out as like, oh, you know what I love?
Yeah, I love when they feel something different. When they come in and say, I had a different reaction, I dealt with something differently. Or when we're doing an exercise we've practiced a lot and they say, do you see how I'm doing this so much better now? And I'm like, yeah. And you feel it? I love that. So it's when people start to realize their progress or their development or the positive parts of what they're doing. That just makes me happy. And I hug almost every single client that I have. And I love that I have a job and they'll hug me. I'm a hugger. Like I'm a hold-on hugger.
I love it.
I really believe in that, like couple seconds of hugging someone if they'll let you. I don't just hug random people, but if someone is in my life, I don't hug a client right away.
Yeah.
But I get to a point usually with everyone where we hug. And I love that my week has that many hugs in it.
Oh, that is a great metric. How was your week? Well, I had 23 hugs.
Exactly.
So
it's about that many.
That's good. How was your week? It was only about 5 or 6 hugs. But what's the hug-o-meter?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good.
Yeah,
that's good. I think
lovely.
I was thinking about the oxytocin that eye contact releases. Eye contact with a human, with an animal. I've been thinking about like, eye contact, like how much eye contact you can have and feel that feeling. I do that when I teach too, is like, hey, like let's explore eye contact and also feel that point where it's like, oh, too much.
Yeah. That's enough getting weird. Yeah.
Because I think folks are not looking at each other. Okay, I want to respect your time.
Oh, yeah. I do have to go to work.
I
have to go teach. I got to go hug some people. I'm going to hug tonight. Tonight I'm going to hug 9 people. So I have 2 group classes. And I hug everyone.
Oh, God. That's so good. Oh, my God.
They hug me. We hug each other.
Yay. Yes, I just like. What is something, you've already shared a few things. What is something that you're doing in your life that feels really yummy, creative kind of thing, whatever it is, whether it's like a show you've been watching or something you've been eating or reading or whatever.
Yeah. Like nourishing to me.
Yeah.
I think the most nourishing thing in my life is sort of a morning practice of getting up early and meditating and then moving my body. I have a big carpet on the floor, kind of in dim candlelight. That's important to me until my 10-year-old wakes up and goes, I hate how dark it is in here, and turns all the lights on. But that's my deepest nourishment, I would say. And then going to the river when I can, once or twice a week at least, hopefully. But creatively, I think recently the most creative thing, and I was actually explaining this to a friend today, just this semester teaching at SFU in this movement fundamentals class, was creating the curriculum for that class, brought up in me creativity that I haven't felt since I was inside of a dance project, inside of a creation process. And it was great. That was really exciting for me. And I really loved it. And it's kind of opened up, that's coming to an end, but it's opened up how I can keep exploring in that way, even in my day-to-day sessions with people. So themes of like parts of the body or ways of moving the body. And let's just nerd out on breath now. So that type of stuff. So I do spend time reading and listening to podcasts and researching different nerdy body nervous system stuff.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of that in the bath. I have a great bathtub, and I have one of these weird suction cup things that puts a little table on the bath so I can put my computer there if I need to.
Cool.
Or a book.
Yeah.
And I spend time in water researching things, and I love it. I get excited. I get excited to go home and get into the bath and
do some thinking.
Do some, whatever I decide to nerd out about.
Oh, that's so good.
And then my boyfriend just moved here from Europe and now lives with me. So we spend a lot together. So that's just love. That's just fantastic. And lots of snuggling. There's a lot of snuggling.
Hugging, snuggling.
I'm very huggy.
There's a theme.
Yeah, there's a theme. There is a theme. I think since not dancing and not having like partnering and that kind of stuff, I realized how much, having a child was very physical at the beginning, like having her on me literally all the time. But she's not as affectionate as she used to be. It's just not that in her preteen life.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm noticing how that's changed. And I do miss that.
Totally. I know when they're little, there's a moment of like, just get off me.
I know.
And also never leave.
Yeah. I can remember being like, she's like a monkey on my back. Yeah. And I'm going to love it. Even though right now I'm annoyed, but I'm going to love it because someday she's not going to. And now that day's there, I'm like, oh yeah. I miss it.
I know.
Just climbing all over me.
I know.
Breastfeeding wherever and whenever she wanted. All that kind of stuff. Yeah. It was just kind of a lovely, beautiful mess.
I know. Yeah.
The best.
A lovely, beautiful mess.
Yeah.
Aw. I feel like that's like a beautiful place to end.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. We'll have you on again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. That was fun.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Ali, for sitting down with me and having such a great conversation. Now I'm just like reeling with more questions, as I'm sure you might be too. So we'll have Ali back for sure. And thank you, listeners, for joining me again. I really appreciate it. It really does matter. And as I've said before, share the podcast. It makes a difference. And if you can donate, even a little bit helps. That's in the show notes, where you can donate. Talking Shit with Tara Cheyenne is a production of Tara Cheyenne Performance. It is produced, edited, with original music by Marc Stewart. And you can get in touch with him at marcstewartmusic.com. And today I would like to leave you with a quote from James Clear, who I quote on occasion. I do like his quotations. He wrote a book called Atomic Habits. There are 2 simple rules. Number 1, you get better at what you practice. Number 2, everything is practice. Look around and you may be surprised what people are practicing each day. If you consider each moment a repetition, what are most people training for all day long? Many people are practicing getting mad on social media. Others are practicing the fine art of noticing how they have been wronged. Still more have mastered the craft of making plans, but never following through. But of course, it doesn't have to be that way. What are you practicing? I like that one. So anyway, leave you with that. Keep making shit up. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.
This podcast is effing good.
Eye contact with a human, with an animal,